Good morning. My apologies for being a bit late today, a few minutes, 7 minutes late. I'm exhausted. Oh, I went to see Charlie's Angels last night and I couldn't get home. So, I don't know, you may have heard, we have transport disruptions here this week because of the protests, and our subway system closed at 10, which I knew, but I didn't expect the buses also to stop running. So I had a really hard time getting home last night and got home quite late and I'm exhausted. So I slept in for a few minutes and then got up when my phone rang. So I'm going to talk about three films today. First is Charlie's Angels. Because I saw it last night, I haven't written anything up yet. So like last week, this is off the top of my head. Is it a reboot? Yeah, I guess it's a reboot. It's a sequel, sort of. It's directed and starring Elizabeth Banks. People would know her from the Pitch Perfect series and quite a few other films. She's a comedian actress, very funny, and it also stars Kristen Nielsen. Kristen, what's her name? I can't even remember. The woman from Twilight, and then the woman from Aladdin, who's Princess Jasmine, and somebody I'd never seen before, Ella. Because I haven't written anything up. I don't even know their names. Ella, whatever, I don't know her name, but she was of the best of the four women. She was the best, but that's a low bar. So as I said, it's a sort of a sequel. It's a sort of a reboot, sort of a sequel, because there is one scene very early on where they show one of the Bosleys, which I'll get to in a half a second. One of the Bosleys with the original Angels and the Angels that were in the movie, what, about 20 odd years ago now, with Cameron Diaz and Lucy Liu and Drew Barrymore. And then I think, because I've never seen it, there was a TV show in the 90s that didn't last very long. And I think there was even one little scene. So it did pay, it paid homage to those, what came before. But other than that, it's all new. And in this film, there are multiple Bosleys. The Townsend organization started by Charlie Townsend, who was voiced by, because I haven't written this up. What was his name? The guy from Dynasty, the TV show Dynasty. So it's now gone international, and in every city where they're located, there is a team of angels, and there is a Bosley who manages them. So as the film starts out, one of the Bosleys, who's played by Sir Patrick Stewart, Jean-Luc Picard, and not Jean-Luc Picard, but Sir Patrick Stewart, he is retiring, and the other Bosleys throw him a retirement party. And what the story is about is a high-tech company has created a device, sort of like a Siri-like device that powers electricity somehow, and they're living in that high-tech city known as Hamburg, Germany. I didn't know Hamburg was the Silicon Valley of Europe, but there you go. Maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe it is. I'll have to check that out. And what's her name? Naomi, is her name Naomi Scott? She's the one who played Princess Jasmine in Aladdin. She's the designer of this thing, and they want to bring it to market. She says it's not ready, and the problem is that it actually can be used for nefarious purposes. And as it turns out, somebody does end up stealing the 6 units that are available. It's very strange. It's very strange. There's only 6 units available plus 1 prototype. But anyhow, they get stolen and they end up in the wrong hands, and the angels have to get them back and find out who is behind this whole plot. So that's what the film's about. The film also stars Sam Claflin, the British actor. I can't stand him. I've never seen him in any movie that he's any good. He's a horrible actor. He's the male equivalent of Emilia Clarke. He was, and and they were in the movie together, that horrible movie together 2 years ago. He's a horrible actor, and he's horrible in this film too. But it doesn't really matter because this film is really about the women, the sisters. The sisters are doing it for themselves. They're kicking ass and they're doing all sorts of stuff like that. It's really, you know what? You don't go into this film thinking it's going to be good. The question is, how bad is it going to be? It's pretty bad. You know, okay, there's a lot of girl power and all that sort of stuff, and female empowerment and everything, which is very nice. Nice to see women kicking ass on the big screen, and playing the leads. Problem is the story. The story is just insane, and there's thinking back to the original TV series, from the 70s. Was it 40 odd years ago now? You know what? And I used to watch it. It was not, it wasn't great acting by any means, but what I liked about the original show was that the women, the angels, would go undercover and, use their brain. They use their brains and their beauty to outwit the men, right? Here, they're kicking ass. They're just kicking ass, and they're wearing beautiful costumes. This is it. They're not really, there is one scene where they do go undercover, but it's more like, it's very short-lived, and it's a job to go undercover and do what they needed to do, and that's it. Other than that, they're just wearing costumes. They're beautiful. They're very pretty to look at. They're wearing beautiful costumes, beautiful shoes, nice dresses, nice hair, the whole thing. Wigs and the whole bit. And they're kicking ass. They're just kicking it. Lots of kicking ass in this film. So, I think that, they got away. Elizabeth Banks, who wrote the script and also directed, she got away, or maybe this was her intent, from what made the original TV show good. That it was brains and beauty, and and kicking ass. The brains here is not. There's no brains here. It's beauty and kicking ass. So, that wasn't so good. The other big problem with the script is that the best lines are delivered by the guys. You have Patrick Stewart delivering good lines. You have one guy who looks like Milo Ventimiglia. What's his name? Ventimiglia. Who looks like him, but it's not. He's got the best lines. There's another guy who looks like a low rent Brendan. I really have to think about this because this is all off the top of my head. Brandon, the guy who played Tarzan years ago, and we don't see him anymore. These guys had the best lines. You have Kristen Stewart, that's her name, Kristen Stewart delivering some good lines. Occasionally she lands them, but most times she doesn't land the good lines. And the other two don't, they're not delivering good lines at all, and Elizabeth Banks not at all. So, if it's really about girl power, why do the guys have all the good lines? Anyhow, bottom line, I don't want to waste my time on this film. It's really lousy. It's pretty bad. So, like one of my colleagues, he saw it yesterday afternoon because he didn't want to. He was afraid what happened to me last night would happen to him, and he was right. And he went and saw it in the afternoon, and he said, "Yeah, it's okay." And then another colleague of mine saw it with me last night, and we said, "What a bunch of garbage! It really is bad." So anyhow. Charlie's Angels, garbage. Next film I want to talk about is it's available. It's playing in a couple places, or playing in the States, or it may have even left the United States already. It's playing in a few countries. It is actually playing. If you're in Taiwan, you're listening to me in Taiwan. There's the Taipei Golden Lion Film Festival, which is going on right now, and it is playing. It's screening tomorrow, Saturday, Monday, and Wednesday. So, if you're at the film festival in Taiwan, you'll have 3 chances to see the film in the next few days. Other than that, you can watch it on Amazon Prime Video, and the DVD's already out. So, I don't know that it's going to come to Hong Kong. It would be nice if it did. I think it's a really good film, but, I don't know if it's coming. But if you have a chance to see it, here's a film I recommend. It's called The Peanut Butter Falcon, and it stars Shia Labeouf. Shia Labeouf is not my favorite actor by a long shot. He's like the American version of Sam Claflin to me. He's a horrible actor. He's got a sort of a his private life is a bit of a train wreck, and yet somehow he's still in Hollywood. I don't get it. But stranger things have happened. But, you know, I'll tell you something. After watching this film with him, I think, oh, I got to reassess what I think about him now, because he was really good in this film. And apparently he's got another film that hasn't come to Hong Kong yet. I think it hasn't even been released yet, but it's sort of on limited release in the United States called, what's it called? Honeypot or something? And so he's also involved in that. I think he even directed it. I'm not sure. And that one's getting great reviews too. So maybe he's getting his life turned around. I don't know. So as I said, so the Peanut Butter Falcon, and what it is, it's a modern day Huck Finn adventure, and it tells the unlikely friendship between Zach, played by Zach Gottsagen, and you wouldn't know who Zach Gottsagen is, but he's a young man with Down syndrome, and his alter ego Zach has dreams of becoming a professional wrestler. And this relationship is between him and Tyler, played by LaBeouf. And Tyler is a troubled man who's on the run from a couple of crab catchers. Is that what they're called? Crab catchers? I don't know what they're called. Crabbers, crab catchers in North Carolina's Outer Banks. The two meet up after Zach runs away from the nursing home where he lives, and he hides out in Tyler's fishing boat. And after Tyler torches his rival's crabbing equipment, he takes off down the Keys, headed for Florida, where he hopes he can start his life afresh. Zach, meanwhile, wants to go to a wrestling school that is run by his idol, the saltwater redneck, who's played by Thomas Hayden Church, who's probably best known for the Sideways, and he was in the very first Daddy's Home movie. And this wrestling school is in the same direction. So Tyler agrees to take Zach to the wrestling school and drop him off and continue on down to Florida. Now, their journey together on land and on water is full of adventure, as the pair is chased by both the crabbers and Eleanor, who's played by Dakota Johnson, who is the social worker at Zach's home who needs to bring him back safe. And along the way, these guys, they learn a lot about each other and what they're capable of when they start to believe in themselves. And that's pretty much what the film's about. Now, this film was written by two young directors, Tyler Nilsson and Michael Schwartz. This is their feature film debut. They've made a couple of short films and videos. This is their first feature. And the two of them, they met Gottsagen, Zach. They met him a few years earlier at an acting class where Zach attended. Apparently, Zach's been acting since he was 3 years old. He's about 22 now. And they knew, when they met him, they knew that they had to write a film around him. And I'll tell you something, it's very refreshing to see a film where the lead actor has a real disorder and is not acting like he has one. You know, when you think about, well, there's so many films, you know what I'm talking about. So Gottsagen is so good here that it's not long before we, just like Tyler, they start to see his abilities rather than his disabilities. And that's, you know, this is really a heartwarming film, I gotta say. As for LaBeouf, he gives what may be his most honest performance to date, and his scenes with Gottsagen are really, they're rich with heart. It's, you know, there's one scene where after, you know, many trials and tribulations, Zach puts his arm around Tyler and says something, I won't say what, and Tyler reacts emotionally, and it was so real that I wondered if that was scripted or if that was unscripted, because apparently there were some things that were unscripted, and I wonder if that was an unscripted scene, because it just, like, you could see his words just piercing his heart, and that was really, it was beautiful to see. And it would have been nice to have been there after the directors said cut, and then to see LaBeouf's reaction afterwards. I bet he was in tears afterwards, because it was beautiful. Now, Bruce Dern, is also in it, he plays Zach's highly resourceful and, I would say, feisty roommate, Carl. Now, Dern is 83 years old. He's showing no signs of slowing down. He has 6 films and 2 video games currently in production. So good on you, Bruce Dern. You know, age is a number. Now, the film premiered last March at the South by Southwest Film Festival, and it took home the Audience Award in the Narrative Spotlight section. As I said, outside of the US and a handful of other countries, it really hasn't had much of a commercial release. It's been on mostly festival circuits. And I said, I don't know if it's coming to Hong Kong. I hope it comes. I hope maybe it'll come to the film festival in the spring, in March, April. I don't know when the film festival is next year, March, April. But anyhow, it is available now on Amazon Prime Video, And the DVD and the Blu-ray are also available. So who knows? So I would say this is a beautiful story. It's called The Peanut Butter Falcon. It's a wonderful story. It'll absolutely put a smile on your face, make you feel all fuzzy and warm inside. If you have a chance to see it, do, because it's a good one. That's called The Peanut Butter Falcon. Finally, I'll talk about Ford versus Ferrari. All these films, by the way, well, not The Peanut Butter Falcon, but Charlie's Angels and Ford versus Ferrari, they opened yesterday here in Hong Kong. I think Ford versus Ferrari and Charlie's Angels are opening around the world today. So Ford versus Ferrari tells the story of Ford's entry into car racing, and they're competing at the 24 Hours of Le Mans endurance race in 1966. But the film actually starts a few years earlier, 1963, when Henry Ford II, played by the absolutely wonderful Tracy Letts, I should say Pulitzer Prize winning Tracy Letts, wants to energize. He plays Henry Ford II. He wants to energize the culture at the automobile company that bears his family's name, and he tasks his executives with coming up with new and exciting ideas. And his company vice president Lee Iacocca, who's played by John Bernthal. John Bernthal's also in, by the way, he's in The Peanut Butter Falcon, but he doesn't have a speaking role. He's in Flashback. And Lee Iacocca, who would later go on, for you kids, Lee Iacocca, by the way, would later go on to turn Chrysler around in the 1980s. He was not only the CEO, he was the pitchman on their commercials. So Lee Iacocca comes up with the idea that Ford should get into car racing, and Ford agrees, and they try to buy Ferrari, but Ferrari spurns them, and with that, Ford decides to go to war against the Italian car company that spurned him, and he directs his racing car division, led by Leo Beebe, played by Josh Lucas, who was in Boy Choir. He was the bad father in Boy Choir, horrible film. So he wants him to build a car that can win the race, the 24 Hours of Le Mans endurance race. And to do that, Ford hires American performance car designer and engineer Carroll Shelby, played by Matt Damon, and Shelby in turn hires British driver, racing car driver and mechanic Ken Miles, played by Christian Bale. And Miles is a bit of a loose, well, not a bit, he is a big loose cannon, and his approach is at odds with Beebe's button-down style, and it's up to Shelby to keep both men happy and out of each other's way as they build the car that will compete against Ford. And they build the GT40, and Ferrari, or they'll compete against Ferrari. And Ferrari has the 330 P3, if you know your cars. I don't. So that's what the film's about. Now, I'd say Ford versus Ferrari is certainly a crowd-pleasing joyride, but don't look too closely under the hood. While it's essentially a story about two men who were driven, no pun intended, to make racing car history, screenwriter brothers John Henry and Jez Butterworth, along with Jason Keller, they don't deliver anything more than a formulaic tale of man versus machine and little guy versus corporate America, with Beebe being its one-dimensional bad guy. This doesn't stray at all out of that. There's a couple of subplots like Shelby's health and Miles's financial woes. They get introduced and then they get thrown out like a car part that isn't needed. But fortunately, the film also includes a number of high-octane racing sequences and crashes, but I'll tell you something, neither are terribly spectacular nor as adrenaline pumping as the trailer would indicate. I watched the film and I'm like, okay, these races are interesting, they're good. And then the next night I was at another press screening and I saw a trailer for this film, Ford versus Ferrari, and it's basically all car race. And it looked a hell of a lot more exciting than it really was. So, and I think the problem was by the time we see Miles redlining redlining it to 7,000 RPMs, the thrill is gone. How many times can you see this red line, this tachometer go over to 7,000? It gets a bit boring. And I think a little bit more creativity from director James Mangold. He did Logan, he did Walk the Line. This is a 3:10 to Yuma. This is a good director, but not very creatively shot, I would say. this was the problem. I think the script is very by the numbers, and the shooting is very by the numbers. This could have been a really good film. As it is, it's an okay film. So I'd say Damon and Bale, they have good on-screen chemistry, but neither seems to be stretching their acting talents very far. At least Bale, who comes from Wales, he puts on what's supposed to be a Birmingham accent. A Birmingham. That's probably not Birmingham, that's probably a Liverpool accent. But anyhow, he puts on what is supposed to be a Birmingham accent. I understand what one of my colleagues said. Apparently, when they were filming, or maybe in rehearsal, he did put on a Birmingham accent, and people thought that the American audience won't be able to understand him, so he toned it down a little bit. This is what I was told. I don't know if that's true, but aside from one scene where the two men take swings at each other, if you've seen the trailer, you've seen that scene. That's the best scene in the movie. Other than that, there's not a lot of dramatic action going on between the two, as the story is really about them versus Beebe, them versus Ford. Well, not Ford, because he was okay, but the suits at Ford. So I think that was rather, you have two very strong characters that it would have been nice to have seen more of this. There are a couple of scenes of this, but really it was them against the others. So, didn't quite work. Now, racing car enthusiasts will no doubt be cheering this blast from the past. But I'm sure for the rest of us, I'm not a racing car enthusiast, but I think for the rest of us, it was like, they'll just go, yeah, it's okay, it's enjoyable. It's not going to take any awards, no Oscars, no Golden Globes, anything like that. It's not that good a film. It's enjoyable, but it's nothing more than that. So, you know what? I'd say go see it. You're going to like it, but you're not going to love it. Unless you're a racing car enthusiast, you're not going to love it. You're just going to go, yeah, it's okay, It's like, yeah. So that's called Ford versus Ferrari. That's it. It's 8:59 in the morning. I always like to finish before 9 o'clock. So next week I had some screenings next week. They've been canceled because of all the protests that are going on here. So I have no idea what I'm doing. I know there's a Taiwanese film I'm seeing on Tuesday night, but I don't even know when it's opening, so I don't know if I'm reviewing it next week. Who knows? Life in Hong Kong, it's never dull. Have a good weekend. Bye.